I'm going to ask Fred Nelson, if he will, to have the prayer this morning.
If you would join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, who is good and merciful, we bow humbly before you this evening, thankful for the day, God. We bless you, Lord, for your creation is good, for you have declared it to be so. We thank you, Lord, that in these proceedings tonight that we will go through the town's business with an eye for detail and that everything will be decent in order and pleasing in thy sight. We ask also, as always, that you protect our servicemen and women, our first responders, and even our town employees who are out in the field every day. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I call the meeting to order. We welcome everybody here tonight. Let's stand and pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Public comments. Fred's going to introduce a new hire.
Mr. Seth Stanley is not in the audience, but we welcome him aboard anyhow as our most recent wastewater treatment plant operator. Some of you may have already known Mr. Stanley, but we're glad to get him out there.
We now have the public comments. Anyone that wishes to address the board are asked to provide their name, address for the record, and come forward at this time.
Good evening. I'm Brian Whitman with 406 East Hill Street, Benson, North Carolina, right down the street here.
Okay.
And on behalf of Steph, I'll accept his welcome into the town since he's absent.
He just came in.
Oh, did he walk in?
Yes, he did.
All right, so I wrote this down just so it'd be a little easier and be a little quicker. Just want to take a few minutes to discuss the ongoing issues with the folks occupying the church at 402 East Hill Street. After a few conversations and a town-sponsored meeting with the other folks in the neighborhood, I received a town advising of the situation, the letter that you sent, I guess, right before the end of the year. Basically, it states, after several visits by law enforcement, it looks like the sound is consistently between 52 and 76 decibels, in which I, along with the other residents on East Hill Street, feel is unacceptable in a residential setting. Currently, Ordinance 96.03 states noise levels up to 80 decibels are allowed for a quote, non-residential dwelling. Ordinance 96.04 states noise levels between 50 and 60 decibels are allowed for a quote-unquote residential dwelling based on the time frame. I believe the best approach to resolving this issue is to modify the newly revised sound ordinances to enforce the noise issue in a more uniform fashion. For example, modified to state, quote, any dwelling in a residentially zoned area of town in which we are an R6 or an R11 residential. So my formal request to the Town Board of Commissioners is to consider modifications of Ordinance 9603 and 9604 to reflect decibel levels based on residential and commercial areas as opposed to residential and non-residential dwellings. So that's all I've got to say. Thanks.
Thank you for coming forward.
You're welcome.
Anyone else wants to be heard by the board tonight? Anybody else? That concludes the public comments. Does any of the board have any questions about the department reports that they want to ask? Now we're going into the public hearing. We have with us tonight Lindsay Whitland, and we're going to be covering PD 2022-01. She's going to give us a breakdown of what we're going to be talking about.
Yes, good evening, Board. As Mayor mentioned, my name's Lindsay Whitson. I work with Triangle J Council of Governments. We've been procured by the town to assist with planning services while Erin is out on maternity leave. So I will try to do my best to present and share everything with you tonight like she does. And as the mayor mentioned, this is a public hearing, so we will open it up for comment once I'm finished and the board asks and I answer questions if there are any. So this is a plan development review, and just a little bit of background information. The request is to rezone 26 acres of land located off North Honeycutt Street. Currently, it is zoned R11, which is medium density residential, as well as B2, which is neighborhood business. And so, again, the request is to rezone to plan development residential. The property owner and petitioner is 550 Cash LC, and the total acreage of the land is 26 acres. And as you can see, it currently is vacant right now. So just a reminder for those who might not remember, planned development residential is intended to provide for master planned residential communities containing a mix of housing types, including associated amenities with appropriate perimeter buffering and open space. So this district is primarily intended for large-scale residential projects that require either additional flexibility that some of the other zoning districts don't allow, or greater scrutiny by the town due to scale. So these two maps show the current zoning. Again, it's R11, and then a portion of it is B2. It is consistent with what the future land use map is proposing, which is medium density. And so very, again, consistent with what is proposed in the future. This is a little bit more of an in-depth project description. So the developer is proposing to construct 79 residential units on the 26 acres of land. There's 38 townhouse units proposed, as well as 41 single-family dwelling units proposed. I've already mentioned that the lot sizes of this, well, I guess I didn't mention this, but the lot sizes of the single-family dwelling units are consistent with the surrounding zoning district as well as the future land use map. And with the development, there's 4.3 acres of open space being proposed. And the pictures on the right show some renderings that were submitted of the townhomes, as well as like a proposed park shelter and what a potential trail could look like, natural trail within the development. And then sidewalks are included on both sides of the street, and then the front portion of North Honeycutt Street. And there are landscape buffers surrounding the perimeter of the development. And so with the submittal of the application, they had to include a master plan. So obviously this is kind of difficult to see on the screen, but you can see the single family lots, and then on the left is the proposed townhomes. And so this slide is very important because based off of the approval criteria that's listed in the town's UDO, which are these 7 items, staff is recommending approval of the rezoning, and the planning board didn't seem to have any findings as well, and it was approved by them for recommendation to the Board of Commissioners. Just to walk through the 7 criteria. So first, it does appear to be consistent with adopted plans, particularly the comprehensive plan and the future land use map that I spoke about, as well as policies of the town. And then item 2 is suitability of the subject property for uses permitted by the current versus the proposed district. And then this is where, as I mentioned, it is currently R11 and B2. With the new rezoning, excuse me, let me back up. R11 obviously allows for single family units, and B2 allows for townhomes with a special use permit. So instead of the applicant having to go through the process of rezoning and then getting the additional special use permit, the plan development allows for just to bypass that process. And with the rezoning, they can have the townhomes and the single-family units. And then third, whether the proposed changes tend to improve the balance of uses or meet a specific demand in the town. Staff has identified that this proposal will help with affordable housing, create a diversified housing stock, as well as affordable housing. And then the proximity to nearby commercial and the school allows for more walkable uses in the town and interconnectivity. And then the fourth criteria is the capacity of adequate public facilities and services such as schools, roads, recreation facilities, wastewater treatment, and stormwater drainage facilities. And it's been noted that there are adequate public infrastructure that supports this development, as well as, again, the close proximity to the school makes it walkable. And then the fifth item is it has been determined that the legal purposes for which zoning exist are not contravened. So similar to criteria 2, this is, again, where R11 already allows for single family, and B2 does with that special, allows townhomes with that special use permit. So not much change if the rezoning does get passed. And then 6, it has been determined that there will be no adverse effect upon adjoining property owners unless such effect can be justified by the overwhelming public good or welfare. And then lastly, it has been determined that no one property owner or small group of property owners will benefit material from the change to the detriment of the general public. And again, since there isn't much change that will be happening, the usages are already technically allowed, then there shouldn't be any one in the public in the area that is seeing adverse effects from this. So I guess now we would open it up for questions and or if you want to start with the public hearing. That's the end of my presentation.
You know, ask the board if they have any questions of you at this time.
I got a question. So they're wanting to rezone the whole 26 acres,
Mm-hmm.
correct? So-
Correct.
And they're wanting to rezone it for townhomes, right?
Up.
'Cause the other was already R11 for single family. So, my question is that if we rezone that whole 26 acres,
Mm-hmm.
who's to say they change the plan and build townhomes on the whole 26 acres?
Well,
Can they do that?
they still have to go through the plat review process, and so that would come down to the town deciding if they want that when they get to that stage.
Remember, this is the first time that we've had, since we redid the land use plan, a PD classification, and that is for planned development. And that's taken R11 and B2 and making it into PDR or PD 2022-1, which is the first time.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is different in that it has mixed use. So, I think, it would be good if we could open it up and then we can come back. Any other questions?
I've got a question. This might be a little bit premature, but it's got to do with one of those approval criteria. Obviously, with this location being so close to the school system and it's adding 78 residents, some of them want to be townhomes. I'm assuming that's going to be younger families. Do we know at this stage what kind of road improvements we're looking at the cost of the developer? Are we going to have walking lanes on the road to the school system, or are there going to be 78 families trying to cross kids and walk down Honeycomb Street?
I'm not sure we know at this point, but he does have to get the proper DOT, like traffic, I believe a traffic impact study. I mean, the developer might know a little bit more about that than I do, honestly, but proper DOT permits and sign-offs from that. So, yeah, I can't confidently answer that question.
I think we could get that from the developer once they get up.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good.
I'm gonna open the public hearing. And I will at this time ask anyone that would like to speak in favor of PD 2022-01 come forward. Identify yourself and your address.
Yes, sir. My name is Gary McKay with Redline Engineering. I'm the engineer who drew that pretty picture for you. And I'm here on behalf of the applicant. We also have the applicant here as well as the local builder as well. Lindsay did a great job. Thank you. Aaron's been great through this whole process. And we've been working on this project for a little over a year now. We've been working with the town staff, working with y'all, going through, I mean, we're all familiar at this point, going through the future land use plan. We've been participating in the comprehensive plan stuff, and you're right, Mayor. This is the first PD since that was approved in November, and I'm excited about that because it's taken us a long time to get here. We've just had to be patient. As y'all have been going through growing pains with sewer and stuff, we've been, town's been saying, hey, let us get these things fixed. Let's work on it so that when we get these things approved, we can come through with some confidence. And we've done that. Aaron's been great in guiding us through that process. I want to be very respectful of your time, so I'm not going to regurgitate everything that Lindsay just said. But I do believe that we have a project here that gives you what you've said you've been wanting to do with mixed use, affordable housing options. As development presses in, affordable options are moving out. And so we've heard from this board that, and some of the public hearings that we need some townhomes. We need some actual true townhomes in the town. We need a mixture of single-family homes and sizes. Medium density, we're only talking 3 units per acre here. So we're not, cramming a whole bunch of things in there that we can, just because we can. I don't feel like we're trying to put a square peg in a round hole with this one. Your UDO basically says if I want to do a townhome anywhere in this town, any district, that I have to get either a special use or a planned development. And so in meeting with Erin, she said, we feel like planned development gives us better opportunity for feedback and to get a better product for the town in the result. I do want to point out a couple of things that I heard you say, and I'm just going to go ahead and hit your questions. I believe you said, can we, what's to prevent them from coming and doing townhomes the whole time? That master plan, that's going to be attached to this. If we deviate significantly from that, we will have to come back before this board. So if we decided tomorrow, hey, we're going to do 150 townhomes, we'd have to be right back here. So that master plan is attached to this approval. So that was what prevents it. So we're going to do what's on that plan. From this we go to, assuming we get approved tonight, hopefully we do, then we go to construction drawings and we work with the town staff to extend sewer and water to the project. Roads also. We have preliminarily reached out to DOT. We know if we're doing over 20 lots, we're doing, we're widening the road. So we're going to do a symmetrical road widening. We will have sidewalks along North Honeycutt. It's the entire frontage of the property. It's important to note, it's like I mentioned in October when I stood before you, we were talking about rezoning certain things in the town. Our applicant owns another 5 acres across the street next to the school. Well, that's B2. Well, we plan to put B2 there, neighborhood residential. We can't put B2 there until we put houses. You have to have, if you want to put a coffee shop, nail salon, those retail features, you have to have something feeding them. And so the residential is a very big component. So what you're voting on tonight is 26 acres because that's the residential piece. And the B2 piece is coming along behind that. So it's really going to end up being over 30 acres. It's going to be about 31 acres total of a mixed-use development on both sides of that road. And we will have to put sidewalks on 301 and North Honeycutt on that side of the road as well, with a crosswalk at the driveway so we can get safely across North Honeycutt over towards the school. So yes, we will, those sidewalks are coming. Curb and gutter won't be required on North Honeycutt, but the sidewalks will, and curb and gutter's already on parts of 301, so we'll probably have to fill in the gaps. I hope that helps answer some of those questions. But we're just here tonight. Like I said, we've been working with the town staff, trying to come up with some affordable options so that, you know, town employees, EMS, fire, teachers have somewhere that they can live close to where they work. We've gone through this process with the future land use map and the comprehensive plan, adding input. This is one of those projects that's quite honestly where the rubber meets the road. We've said these are great things. They're examples. This could be an example of a mixed-use development in the town of Benson, and I think it'll be a good complement to the surrounding areas. As we've conducted a neighborhood meeting, everything has been fairly amicable. No pitchforks, no shouting, no screaming. Everything's gone quite well. There's been a lot of questions about stormwater, fences, buffers, things like that. We're not standing here tonight asking you to waive all the rules for us. We're just asking you, hey, your code says in order to put townhomes anywhere, we've got to do a planned unit or a special use, and this is what the town staff guided us to. They said that we feel like this gives us the most flexibility to discuss. So I'm here to answer any questions I can. The developers here, we've got the local builder. So I do want to point out, and I think it's worth pointing out, is the entire team's local. The design engineer, me, the developer, the builder, the real estate agent, the whole team is right here, Johnston County folks. So we're here, we're investing in Benson, and we hope we can move forward together. Thank you.
Does anybody have any more questions?
Well, I think back in 2016 that there was an ordinance passed that all new subdivisions would be curbed and guttered. Will that?
Yes, this will be curb and guttered.
I thought you just said, well, it would not be curbed and guttered.
North Honeycutt Street is not curb and
You're
guttered.
right, okay. Now, will these houses be federally funded?
No, sir.
No,
This is affordable, not low income.
okay. Well, we have put in affordable in the past, and it ended up low income. And I just wanted to make sure that that's not what we were looking at.
That is not what we're looking at.
Very good.
That is not what our builder and our client, that's not their bread and butter. That's not what they do.
Very good.
I guess my only concern is the schools in that area, in the South Johnston area, period. I just don't know how the schools are gonna keep gaining children at the rate we're going right now. That is one concern that I do have.
And I don't stand before you tonight with a solution to the schools. In fact, half of my staff right now, their students are, my children are learning from home right now. So, and I don't know how that's going to change our moving forward either, to be honest with you. I do know that they're going to have to continue to pump money into school, and they're going to have to continue to build schools to keep up. But this is the Triangle area is the third hottest market in the country. And they're going to, Johnston County schools are going to have to build some more schools. I mean, that is absolutely true, and we would champion that. I don't have the statistics on the schools this evening. I know that some schools are heavily loaded and others are not. And I don't know how we balance that out. So, I mean, we actually have some not far from here. They're getting, there's a couple, Wilson County is actually shutting schools down because they don't have enough students. So, I'm glad that we don't have those problems. I'd rather figure out where we're going to put the students that are coming than figure out how we're going to lay off teachers. So I'm sorry I don't have the answer to that one.
Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Anyone else want to come and speak in favor? Come forward. No one else coming forward in favor? Now anyone that is opposed? Anyone that is opposed to PD 2022-01? No one comes forward. I now close the public hearing. Any questions of the board?
I think this is where you would read the consistency statement then.
Okay. Is that all the statement there? Does everybody see that? I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion based on the information presented tonight that, we adopt the statement of consistency and find that case number PD 2022-01 is consistent with our adopted goals, objectives, and policies of the town of Benson, and is reasonable and in the public interest, hereby granting approval.
Any other questions? All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. It's approved. Thanks for the presentation. Consider the Partnership for Children contract.
Evening, everybody. This came up in our meeting in December, the first meeting in December. And in your packet, I believe Kim got together the numbers for Partnership for Children's, what was it, last 3 years? 4 years, 5 years?
Since 2016.
Goes back to 16, showing their utility usage. There were several, I think there were a few concerns that we can address, but one of the concerns was that when this was incepted, when they first started leasing this space, they were gonna be charged an amount, which is $700 a month, that was commensurate with about what they consumed in utilities. And before you have those numbers, so you can look to determine whether or not their rent still should be $700, or you wanna change it. And there may be other concerns as well. What I've drafted is just the renewal. The renewal looks just like the last, I think 4 or 5 that we've done. I think 5 that we've renewed. We've just done year extensions. The lease that is in effect right now is it was a year-long lease. It ended the end of December 31st, 2021. The lease terms state that if there's no new lease extended or created or agreed to by the parties, then that converts just to a month-to-month lease. So right now, with Johnston County Partnership for Children, you have a month-to-month lease under the old terms, under the old rent rate. So, what questions can I answer about? I'm not asking necessarily for you to do anything on this, and particularly I've just drafted the documents, but you know, you've got a month-to-month lease tenant situation, and I guess at some point the board will have to decide what do we want to do long-term.
What would you recommend?
I recommend, certainly, I think it's reasonable that the Johnston County Partnership for Children pay whatever's commensurate with what they're consuming in utilities. And, you know, from the numbers, I think we're close, but, you know, we might want to look at that closer and determine whether or not the rent needs to go up.
I'm kind of asking you on legal terms with the town. Now, we have been with the Pound Cake Factory and all kinds of things. I think
It's a bad
that
example.
this is
but yeah, it's-
probably one of
this
the
is nowhere
best
near that
things,
bad.
yeah. This is probably one of the best things that's ever come out of that space. I don't even know why they, there should be some kind of program where they would not even have to pay utilities and stuff, because there should be something out there through the state that would pay this for them, or a program like this. But I know we're talking about the building. We've got to spend mega bucks on that building no matter who goes in. It's got to have roofs, it's got to have so many things. That's why I'm just wondering, what would you recommend the town to do on a month-to-month, or go ahead and commit to a year, or?
The concern I would have was the age of that building and
Yeah.
the status, the state that it's in. And I won't get too far into that because I very quick like will get into an area that I can't speak to adequately, and that would either be Tim or Fred or somebody who can talk to you more directly about the who knows more about how to describe the condition of the building. But we've dealt with that building before. You mentioned something I would like to forget sometimes with dealing
Yeah.
with the pound cake company, part of that. And then also the part of the building that's recently been torn down and the shape that was, and this isn't a lot better, but it's still part of that same complex. So the concern would be is if you go into a year-long lease, that, you know, you've got obligations to let that tenant have that space and keep it in good working order for them during that year-long period. If this board decides that that might be something that needs to be looked at further, that there needs to be an assessment done of what the condition currently is and whether or not the town can uphold its side of the bargain in giving Johnson County Partnership for Children its the space in good working order, safety being a concern, there's children going in and out of there. That would be a reason to say maybe we need to pause an extension period, because again, you're just in a month-to-month with them. So you're not out of a lease. There's still a binding lease with all the terms applying, but you're just in a month-to-month. So if you came back and looked at it and decided that this is something you don't maybe want to do long-term, then you can make that, you'll have that option available to you. If you do a year-long lease, you're going to be locked in until it expires, presumably end of this year.
We can do a month-to-month lease, but we won't get paid. They have to have a contract in order to get money from the state.
They have to have that current contract, that's all we renew.
And
So
So
that-
how have
even
they
though-
been working?
We renew it every year,
Okay, so it's not been on a month-to-month, it's been on a year lease.
right?
We keep it renewing it every year. So,
You remember last year, we didn't renew it on time, and we didn't get a check for some months.
Well,
We
that-
didn't get a lump sum.
so I guess that goes to their rules about how they're funding the rent payment.
Okay.
If you do a year lease, can you put in that lease so they can get funded or whatever, that we will do it for a year, but any kind of dollar amount over this threshold, you know, we might be giving you 30 days notice.
Any dollar amount for what, like a repair?
Repair, replacement?
You can. I mean, I could put something in there that's, you know, that gives you, essentially you're looking for some kind of a term that it would be cost prohibitive for you to fix, and therefore you would tell them, I'm gonna give you some kind of a, you know, I'm gonna terminate the lease if there's some kind of damage or extremely expensive repair. I don't know what their thoughts would be on that, so, but we could certainly present them with it.
I think they could. Hey, Max, you got your finger
Who
in?
pays for the insurance?
We pay for the insurance.
How much does that cost?
I do not know that.
More importantly than the insurance, this is just based on utilities, and we're going in the whole based on utilities. How many man hours are we spending, and how many repairs are we paying out of our pocket on a budget item?
I don't have that value, but I can tell you that building, is supposed to have 4 HVAC units on it. Only 2 are functional, and, they're old. They're old, and luckily, what has happened to them over recent years has been repairable, but, we're overworking those units because we're conditioning twice the amount of space that those 2 systems are designed to manage, because the other 2 are irreparable. So it's a ticking time bomb just in the matter of, in regards to HVAC equipment on that facility. And you're looking at probably, well, I had it looked at, to look at replacing all the ductwork get the building conditioned as it should be.
Now, was that just for the AC units or just for the roof to get it in condition to put AC units on it?
The roof structurally is okay for AC units. That was just for four HVAC units and duct replacement in the building.
I think my concern is the whole, and first off, I'm gonna say, I think that the partnership is a huge asset to the children in this community. I'm glad that they're here in Benson, and I want to see them try to stay here in Benson. But as a town, we have a lot of properties that are becoming dilapidated very quickly, and we're not making any income off of these properties to be able to keep them. I mean, a window might fall on my car tonight while it's parked out there. And so I'm just saying that somehow or another, and us to be, in my opinion, good stewards of taxpayer dollars, if we're gonna give them the space, I want them to have it for free. I don't want to make money off of it, but I wanna make sure that we're not spending money on that building when we've got town hall facilities and other buildings that we control that are falling behind and we don't have the money to spend on them. It's not worth $20,000 to me to break even to have that over there. I guess that's the best way I know how to put it. from my
Well,
stance.
partnership program is real big in Johnson County, and it's state supported. And I'm just saying, if it's state supported and we support their program, and we have to do these renovations to it, I think there should be some financial aid that we could get, or they could get through the state or through the county. All this money's out there, all these grants out there, and we're gonna have to look at a lot of stuff to go after. And this building over here is not just something that's popped up. We've talked about it since Hurricane Matthew and the whole place got flooded.
And if I can just say, from my role in it, without some conditions or clear direction, when the building's occupied and there's windows that are broken, there's lights that are not working, there's fixtures in bathrooms that are in trouble, there's HVAC units breaking down, then at that moment, in the moment, I feel like I have no choice but to try to make the best operational decision and facilitate those repairs happening because they're in the building. You know, they're using it. You know, if my directive is the next time something breaks, tell them too bad, you just have to move out, then that's what I can do. But at this point for me, that's all I know to do is to respond to the needs of the people that are using the building, which is to spend money to fix.
Tim, who else uses or utilizes any part of that building besides them?
The Partnership for Children and the local tutoring program are in there.
Okay,
And they use the
so
bathrooms
the
during
town,
baseball games.
And then during baseball games, the Parks and Rec facility
Until-
closes the doors for
un-
bathrooms.
until they open up the new,
Right.
I would assume that the new field house will discontinue the use of it, or will discontinue opening up that building and letting people in.
so the town does not, we don't store anything in it or any part of it.
We've got a little bit of stuff in it, but
It could
it's
be moved.
not as much as it used to be. It used to be probably 40% storage, and now it's probably one room.
How many days a week are they occupying, and what times, how many hours a week are they occupying the structure? Is there another I mean, I don't wanna put anything on Derek, cause apparently he's got his hands full according to his report, but is this something that could be in a library or something that could be in another structure in the town other than them encompassing an entire building? Like the tutoring program, could they not utilize part of the library? Could we put funds into the library to prepare space for them that is cheaper than us keeping that building up?
Well, that's what I was going, if we come up and say, okay, we're not gonna have this program because we can't afford it. I think as a town, we've got to find another space to put them right then, because we can't go and say, we're gonna do away with this program. Because it's one of the few programs that this town's got that's actually, helping the children out.
I think we need to get back to deciding whether we want to approve Partnership for Children contract or not.
When
If
have
you
they-
don't wanna approve it, then somebody make a motion that we don't approve.
When have they got to know this by?
Um,
Is there a deadline for them to get their
well,
funding?
December, I mean, then we just won't get a payment in January. So, I mean, we can, I mean, but they'll, you know, they made it good last year when we didn't get payments for so many months. I mean, we just gotta let Dwight know what we're doing. And to answer your question, I mean, in July when we were out there, obviously they weren't doing a lot because of COVID. But there is they use the facility every Wednesday from 9 to 4 for child services, for children ages 0 to 5. There's a parent room that helps educate parents on how to care for their children. WIC is out there. They provide resources to parents in our community that, they wouldn't otherwise get. Then there's the after-school program that Janelle does. There's storage rooms that have car seats that they give away for free to families in our community. And there's also a room that is held for the toy drive every year at Christmas. So there's a room that they put toys in throughout the year.
Fred, is there another facility that the town owns that we could go into?
I don't think we'd have enough space to take care of everything that they're doing over there right now. I can't think of one facility that would accommodate that.
The reason the tutoring program has been maintained is that the children that they're supporting is in that area. And most of them walk to tutor. And if you close that down, then that's the end of it. There's not somewhere else you can put them unless you want transport.
My preference would be, I would make a motion at this point that we table this. We've got another meeting in January. I would like Tim and whoever knows to work on some numbers to see if we can maybe address the lease situation, to see if how much we're actually going into the hole before we renew for another 12 months. That's my motion.
Well, I negotiated the original contract with him. And we had to do a lot of floating around and trying to come up with something that would work with them. And they do get money from the state, but they also raise money. In other words, they have to get out and raise the money. And the learning program that they have there now, they having a hard time getting volunteers. And there's a good possibility that it'll go away. And if it does, there's going to be some children walking the streets that have been there, and tutors working with them to try to help them get through school. So this is one of the situations that the water and sewer and electricity that was used in there got to be a point of contention. And that's how we came up with, at that time, it was, the utilities were running about $600 a month. And so we charged them $700 rent. And up until that time, we weren't getting anything. And that's been that way since. Now, if you look at the figures that she came up with since 16, it's not far off. So that wasn't too bad to be set up for that rent. But if you want to put it on the table, I mean, that's certainly an option.
I would just like to know, even if I decide to sell it, it's kind of like Mule Days. Mule Days is going to cost us $30,000 every year, but I've sold it in my mind that that's an economic development driver for the town, and so I can at least say, yeah, we're paying money, but this is what we're getting. I would at least like to know what that amount of money is. That way, I say, yeah, we're doing this for the children, and the town's paying this much money, and at least that way I know the facts before I make the decision.
Two things. So first, when you say you want to look into it, you're saying like, I'll be involved. I suppose I'm helping negotiate it with them. Although we haven't really changed any of the terms, we're just looking at a renewal right now. You want Tim and ever who the appropriate person is to determine what it would cost to fix things, or just,
I wanna know what it costs for us maintenance-wise over the last 12 months in addition to the utilities that
okay,
I've got.
maintenance?
Maintenance.
Maintenance cost, okay, cause I was
Yeah,
gonna say,
and
I'm looking through emails, and in July again, we had gone out there and done an assessment of what it would take. Now, this is July, so you've got, 6 months of inflation on construction costs, but we had estimated it was gonna be about $317 to fix the AC, to replace windows, redo bathrooms, paint, replace the doors, and lighting. That was it. We were looking at $317,000.
What about the ceiling grid?
How bad is the ceiling grid?
And the other part is down.
Keep replacing tiles.
We constantly replace pieces of ceiling grid, and part of the ceiling grid problem is the deficient HVAC system. The ductwork, the old ductwork sweating, the units working harder than they should, trying to condition double space. You get a lot of your main trunk line duct, sweating in that space up there. If you're sandwiched between your steel roof deck and that ceiling grid, it'll sweat and drip, and if you're creating ceiling grid tiles like this, they're like a sponge, they just start sucking up water.
Based on the 317, years ago, one of us from years ago, NC State did a future use plan for that building, and that's the last time I've heard of anything. Because you just said this is probably short term anyway. Before we start dropping that type of money, I want to know what the future plan is for that. But I don't want to put $300,000 and then 5 years down the road you tell me we need to tear it down like we did the other ones.
And if you recall, we met on site and looked at it.
Yes, sir.
And we talked about what does the community want to see on that property? And then you can start to determine, can you transform that structure into serving that purpose? Or are you better off to demolish that structure and build a structure that better suits what you project your needs are? That building is built like a schoolhouse. I mean, it's some odd space in it. It's 12-foot wide hallways. Hospitals and schools are built like that. Nothing else is. So it's odd space in it. Even if you went and put windows and doors and HVAC and fixed it up, it's still a really big building with like 8-9 rooms in it. I mean, it's just an odd.
Well, you've been pretty intimate with it. What would you recommend at this point?
Community center.
A community center, if that's what.
I'm talking about in regards to this lease.
Oh.
If this lease-
Well, you already have a motion on the floor, is that right?
I do.
Well, let's just go on and vote on that motion and
I
table it
was-
until next month.
One thing
I
we're
want
gonna
a
put
motion.
in your mind, you
He
could,
had a motion.
I don't see a reason why you couldn't do a shorter period. So if you want, your motion's to table, correct? So
Yeah,
to the second meeting.
To the next
to the
meeting.
meeting.
I would
Okay.
consider that in
3 weeks
between now and
away.
then, that I don't know of a reason why partnership requires 12 months. So it's sort of getting to Commissioner McClamb's point, maybe rather than some sort of, exit ramp in the verbiage in the renewal, you could actually just do it for a shorter period, that if something happened, you could say, listen,
Get out of it anytime you want to.
Let me ask my question that relates to that. I just wanna make sure I understand. What happens if we approve it tonight for $700 a month, and tomorrow the air conditioners blow up, and they say, well, we signed a lease for a year, your job is to put this in there, so get us some new air conditioners, brother. Is that right?
Possibly, I don't know that they would, but they could. They're your tenant. You have a responsibility to lease them the demise purposes.
Is there a way to put that in a lease where, like a triple net type thing?
You could, sure. You could change it to that. I don't know that it would do a lot of either good it would do a lot of good for either party to put the burden on them, but just a recital that if there's something that's in excess of such a certain amount of dollar figure, then, the town's not going to fix it and the lease would just terminate and the rest of the rent would abate. That we wouldn't be able to demise them a usable space anymore because it wouldn't be worth the money to fix it.
State your motion.
My motion was to ask Fred to lead the team to get us numbers on what we were spending on it in maintenance, what we might have to spend it on repairs, and give me a total cost for the past 12 months of what we spent on that building before we enter into, and to table this decision until the next meeting in January.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
Shouldn't have a comment.
system doesn't specify like Lee Street Gym, I'm gonna have to look through every.
It's
thing
not
we
gonna
have.
have any adverse effects on partnership if we push it back to the first meeting in February, is it?
No.
I don't think you're gonna get
I mean,
rid.
as of right now, they're a
You just
holdover
won't get
tenant, as long as they're a holdover tenant, they're still occupying the space, so technically we're gonna.
And
still
they
get
have a
rent.
lease, and I can try to work through that with Dwight's for his money people that are backing him up. We have a lease. It went from being a year term that concluded December 31st to being a month-to-month lease
Right.
under the same terms with the same rent. So we have a lease in place. Something happens, the only difference is if they want to leave, they can with 30 days notice, and we could do likewise. We could terminate. So
What do you think the first meeting in February will take enough time for y'all to get your ducks in a row, Fred to get his ducks in a row? Maybe he can find another space. He says, well, he really doesn't know right now how many people are meeting. So gives him a chance, and also maybe he can check with partnership to see if there's any monies that we need to go out after through them to even take care of what we got.
I think that would, because we would essentially have to have everything in the packet by next Friday.
Yeah.
So it's just for us, that's, with everything else we've got on our docket, that's a quick turnaround.
I'm in my motion to the first meeting in
Thank
February.
you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
All right.
All right, next thing on the agenda is consider approval of ordinance 0122, DOT maintain road closures.
Mayor, if I may go back for a moment and let the commissioners see Seth Stanley, who wasn't here when we introduced him earlier, and welcomed him aboard the wastewater treatment plant crew out there. We look forward to having him do that. Seth, stand up so you can see who you are.
He's the
Thank you.
biggest thing in the room.
Yes, he is. Thank you, Seth. Ladies and gentlemen, you have before you ordinance 01-2022. And it's an ordinance declaring road closures for the 2022 calendar year. Typically, this would be brought forward for the board to approve street closings for the year. I'll read it into the record. I'll try to do it very quickly. Whereas the Town of Benson Board of Commissioners acknowledges the tradition of the events and festivals held in the Town of Benson and the pleasure it provides its citizens and attendees, and whereas the Town of Benson Board of Commissioners acknowledges its citizens realize a financial benefit from hosting these events and festivals, whereas the Town of Benson Board of Commissioners acknowledges that the events and festivals result in road closures to include the installation and subsequent removal of traffic control signage. Now therefore be it ordained by the Town of Benson Board of Commissioners, pursuant to the authority granted by NCGS 20-169, that they do hereby declare a temporary road closure during the dates and times set forth below on the following described portion of State Highway System route. And so we have a listing of the events that which follow. That would be Sundown in Downtown, State Annual Singing Convention, the 4th of July celebration, Mule Days Festival Parade, Hollow Fest, Veterans Day Run for the Brave 5K, and Christmas on Main. With that, I would ask your approval that it become effective when signs are erected, giving notice of the limits and times of the traffic disruption and the implementation of adequate traffic control to guide vehicles around or through the disruption area.
I make a motion, we approve it.
Question. This last statement says there are signs erected giving notice of the limits and times of traffic. Now, where's that sign going to be?
I would think it would be at PD, and it may well be out of the front door. Is that something we typically did?
Well, during the road race, they put them out 2 days before
Right.
to let you know that Lincoln Street and Main Street is
It's
going to
gonna
be
be
closed off for Church Street during the run, and then they have people stationed at those areas.
Let me back up and say that
I
should
don't
be
know
the
about
barriers.
Now, that last statement shouldn't be on there, because This ordinance is to become effective when signs are erected, giving notice of the limits and times of the traffic disruption, and the implementation of adequate traffic control to guide vehicles around and through the disrupted area. Now, what does that say, Chief?
I would tend to agree with you. It very plainly says that it becomes effective when the signs are put up.
We'll put the signs up.
We can post it on the door at the police department, and possibly upstairs in town hall.
And it's the same ordinance that is approved
Every year.
every year or so.
Yeah, I know, but that don't need to be on there.
It
We
doesn't say
can,
where they have to be erected, so I mean, you could post it on the wall in your office and you would be meeting the intended ordinance.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
thank you,
no.
ladies and gentlemen. We'll make sure that one is posted at least on the town hall door.
Consider the approval of Angie Thornton as town clerk reappointment. I'll entertain a motion.
I made that motion. There you go.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed,
It's the only
no.
one I could get to put me on.
Consider approval of renewal of on-call concrete contract. Tim Robbins.
We've got two items here. Both are renewals of annual service contracts. The first one, and I apologize, I don't think you have the memo. Did we get the memo in for concrete?
I don't have the memo.
Okay. I apologize. If you guys bear with me, we'll go through it. I've got the numbers here. Our on-call concrete placement contract is with DCC, Denning Contracting, here in town. The contract allows for up to a 5% increase with annual renewal. This is the last renewal allowed under this contract, so next year it would go out for open bid again. With increased material costs, labor costs, talked to the owner of the company, and he believes he needs a full 5% increase. I don't disagree with him. I think he's probably eaten a little bit at the allowable 5% increase, given conditions the past year or so. That would move the total contract price up to $64,024. Keep in mind, this is an on-call contract, so there are individual line items in it. That doesn't necessarily mean that we'll spend $64,000 this coming year. That's just the total amount, what we would go to if all the line items were used in 1 year. So what we would see is a 5% increase for each individual line item. So linear foot of curb and gutter, square foot of 4-inch flat work, sidewalk, things like that. So asking for your approval to renew this contract under those conditions, 5% increase.
This is the third or fourth renewal?
This is the second renewal.
Second renewal.
Yeah, so it was a 1-year contract with two renewal options, and this is exhausting the last option for the last year.
Any other discussion? I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I make a motion that we approve.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no.
Thank you. The next item is renewal of the annual mowing and landscape maintenance agreement. The Lane Lawn Care has been with us since 2019 under this contract. There's options for renewal under this as well. The contract allows for a prescribed 2% increase annually. So the renewal price for this upcoming year would be $80,624.
Tim, was it put out on bid?
It was put out on bid.
Did you get anybody else?
2019.
It was put out on bid in 2019. We did receive other bids at that time, but the contract was written with renewal options in it. So it's not.
When will it be put back out on bid?
I believe this is the last year of that renewal as
So
well.
y'all got to be locked into it. Now, we've got a 2% increase, but the fire department's doing their own now because they were doing such a lousy job of what they were doing. We were even mowing over at the yeah, well, the children's, place, and we've had to run it over 2 or 3 times. Now, that's been taken out. He's not being paid for what we're doing now.
That's right.
Okay, but we're still doing an increase.
Yes.
Now, what else do you hear around town as far as what Lawrence is doing?
I can tell you what I hear. I hear a lot of dissatisfaction with the level of service that's provided under that contract. I do not believe that it's necessarily the doing of Lane Lawn Care and the work that they provide so much as the mowing schedule that was prescribed in the contract. It calls for a 14-day mowing cycle, 10 to 14 days. So essentially what you have is you're mowing rights-of-ways 1 week, you're mowing facilities, your ballparks around your buildings, things like that. The next week, you go a whole nother week before you mow something again. So imagine if you mowed your yard every 2 weeks in the midst of growing season. That's what we've experienced.
If you find they missed a lot of places they won't mow them because, for y'all's attention, pump station out there, the neighbors were having to keep the grass cut, and then they finally said, I'm not doing it no more, and I sent y'all a picture, it's about 3 foot tall, and they don't get that way in 14 days.
If I remember, every time we've done this contract, you've come back to us every summer, and we've had to do an amendment to their contract to approve more money to get them to mow more frequently. The other question I've got is, and help me, my mind's not probably where it should be or not. Did this include the mowing of some of the properties that we liquidated or not?
No, this didn't include any of the liquidated properties.
Does this include the cemetery?
This does not include the cemetery.
Okay. All right.
Do y'all keep up with it cause like where I mentioned to y'all before, the interchange up there, I had a guy saying it's not being mowed every 14 days. You know, it's gone way over that.
I had
Do
the same
y'all
complaint
keep up
last
with
week.
that?
I do my best to follow up on these contracts. We do not have the staff to assign an inspector to ensure that everything is touched.
They don't give y'all a report
There have been misses.
this day or?
We keep in touch on a regular basis. The contract, I've not requested a specific report for every week or every mowing cycle. I generally know when he's in town. I can keep an eye on where he's been, if he's touched most things. But there's no doubt there are misses. I mean, you have any contract with the volume of work that is in this contract, there'll be misses from time to time, and those things happen.
And
Sometimes
as
you
far
got
as-
wet conditions.
As far as the graveyards go, cemeteries go, Billy's still doing that and
Yeah.
taking care of it.
Yeah, Billy's Lawn Care is mowing that for
And that doesn't have
$650
anything to do with this price.
$650 a month. Billy's mowing that, and this is the cemetery is not a part of this contract.
I guess my concern is, and this might be an automatic 3-time renewal. Is it automatic renewal, or do we have the opportunity to go back and read it? Because if we don't, then there's no need for me to keep talking.
No, we have the option.
Okay, I just wonder if this is the 3rd year, and every other year we've had to go back and amend this. It doesn't sound like we have a contract that is taking care of the items that we need. Do we need to go back and resubmit for what we now know that we need in the contract and see what the bids come in at?
I think we certainly can. You know, we ran some estimates when we first put this contract together, and the board was shocked at where the prices were for the level of service that I think we probably would all like to see, which is a weekly mow of everything. That's when we scaled back. We pushed the schedule out. Now, 2020 was extremely wet. 2021 wasn't a whole lot better. It had its moments through the growing season as well, which ultimately forced me to come to this podium and ask you for funding to issue or sign into a supplemental agreement for additional mows. That was clearly a result of the prescribed mowing frequency and the weather. Now,
What do
this
we
this
do?
year, and it's dry, if it's dry this year, the 10 to 14 will probably work fine. We won't need to mow additional. That was a gamble, I feel like, I hate to say a gamble, but that was a decision that we made to try to reduce the overall cost of our mowing in this town. We did it at a time that we had just extraordinary amounts of rainfall, and it really made us look bad. It made it look like we weren't doing a good job of mowing the grass.
What do we do that we don't contract now? Parks and Rec do any with their mowing?
No.
Nothing.
No.
Everything is farmed out except the fire department and the funeral home, and the cemetery.
Well, the cemetery's farmed out too.
Well, it
Just
is.
to a different contractor.
Without.
I think this goes back to our last conversation we had, our last meeting, about what type of service do we want to provide our citizens. I get tons of complaints throughout the year on the grass on all of the town properties. If this contract that we've got is not meeting our need, I would request that we go back and we build a contract to give the public the service they require, and then we have the job of trying to figure out how we're gonna pay for it, whether it be in-house or whether it be subbed out. I don't think you'll ever get as good a service if you don't own an employee, but that's just my opinion.
Can we get like a intermittent January and February for him to do? Cause I mean, if we can probably take the old bid and we can amend it, have it out by Friday. But then you gotta give them a certain amount of time to get back, you gotta have the bid opening, if we don't have enough, we've gotta resubmit. So it's probably gonna be the end of February
End of
before we
February.
get that to you.
Right.
So can we get something intermediate? Cause if we do this, the contract wouldn't start till March
Right,
first.
it won't roll over to a month-to-month agreement either.
Not this.
Not
No.
So we'll need a
No.
motion that
Is
says.
he
that
currently
we can
mowing
have
grass
that.
right now?
He's not mowing grass. What he's doing this time of season, he's still coming to town pretty frequently. He's trimming shrubs. We'll order mulch in. He'll mulch plant beds around buildings.
January,
Um,
February, March.
There's a busy period of work that doesn't get done during the mowing season. I don't think you could feasibly even touch that
So
type of work
they
during
have
the
been
mowing
in the
season.
grove for 2 weeks or twice in 2 months getting leaves up. That was their crew that was out there with the big trucks raking up all the leaves and stuff in the last 4 or 5 weeks.
Right.
Okay, so that's what they do in the winter months.
They get up leaves, they prune shrubbery. The contract even calls for if we've got shrubbery that has died or we're dissatisfied with it, that they're to remove it. We buy the replacement piece of plant material, they put it in. So we try to schedule that kind of work during this time of the year. It's more suitable time to be transplanting trees and shrubbery anyway. It coincides with remulching around facilities, plant beds around facilities and things like that.
March first is the typical start of the growing season. Can you get me this information by March first? If we extend his current contract to March first?
I mean, I think we can,
Or
like I said,
February 28th.
we'll take the original contract, we'll rewrite it to, I mean, do y'all want 7 to 10 mowing cycle?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll rewrite it knowing those parameters, we can get it out by Friday. We can have it, I mean, I'm pretty certain with the calendar, we can have it back by the second meeting in February to start at March first.
Now keep in mind, the two, I think your two options that you're looking here at this point is you renew this, and you may possibly not, if you have a drier year, you may possibly not need to engage in a supplemental agreement, the additional monies. You'd spend $80,000 this year. If we go to a contract that prescribes a 7 to 10 day, you're probably gonna jump to around 135 to 150 out of the gate, and you may be mowing every 7 to 10 days in a dry season that you don't, that you're mowing dust and not grass.
How many times this extra $6,000-7,000 do you able to call in, come back and mow?
Explain that question. The supplemental agreement, we've, we have tried, and I honestly have sat there and hoped it would stop raining 2 different years in a row. And we ultimately ended up going into a supplemental agreement in August. We were almost to the date this past year what we were the year before. I think in hindsight, we would probably go ahead and get that in place and use it as needed rather than after everybody is dissatisfied and we're all to the point that you just got to hurry up and do something different. There's no doubt when it rains a lot, you've got to mow more frequently. So like I say, we can prescribe a shorter frequency on mowing. But if you do have a dry year, you're going to pay what we already know is probably 2/3 to maybe even double this amount. And if it's a dry year, you're going to be paying that for little or no service.
How many employees would it take to mow what we currently contract out, besides the cemetery?
Wow.
To cut every 7 to 10 days, just a question.
I've not put a figure to it. I know this contractor shows up with, typically with 4 mowers, and you can double that with trim guys. So typically 4 machines, 8 men. You're talking two trucks, 8 men.
They're
4.
using our leaf equipment though.
No,
Not anymore.
no. We collect bulk. We do bulk leaf collection. So
We're just doing the bulk, they're doing it every week.
they are clean. No, I'm cleaning up what you dump out in front of your house. They're cleaning up what falls on this parking lot, what falls in the grove.
Yeah, I'm not talking about coming in like he does and trying to get in and get out and don't come back till the next 14 days. I'm talking about like how many employees would it take with the properties we got to start like right 95 exchange, they do that one day, next day they do this, and then the 7th or 10th day they're back over at 95 rotating.
Well, we used to do that, even in my lifetime, in the last 6, 7 years, before we started contracting it. The town did that, and I think, we started paying out more in workers' comp, than we possibly paid out anything else. Somebody was always getting hurt on a damn lawnmower. Always.
The other challenge, and I think I'm sometimes, I don't mean to be pessimistic, but I think about sort of worst case, how it could work out. Your contractor's typically going to show up with the resources to handle it in 2 days. Now, yes, we could do it with less resources, assuming that they could work 5 days a week. What happens in April when it rains 4 out of 5 days that week? Now I've got something that those 2 men probably can't work through the following week. You get yourself in a hole. We can do it with less people and machines in a perfect scenario, but you're probably not going to get perfect world scenario.
Yeah, Tim, but can't we farm out like we're doing most of it? Couldn't Parks and Rec go back with their equipment and do Parks and Rec? I mean,
Have to
We're-
hire new people.
Yeah.
We got one
are we
maintenance-
down to the skeleton crew now since COVID?
We got one maintenance guy, you got a athletic director, and you got, a special events coordinator.
And we can go on a tangent here and talk about some of my thoughts about grass mowing. We're working with the new ball fields out at VS Park, and hopefully we'll continue to make this effort around town to transition the turf on our playing surfaces to an athletic turf. The grass on our ball fields is just that. It's grass. It's wiregrass. It's Bahia grass. You mow it today, and it's that tall again tomorrow. That's what you get with crappy turf, to be honest with you. If we can get it transitioned to a quality athletic turf, then and basically prescribe some turf maintenance practices to them, then you'd have a better playing surface. You'd have a less expensive surface to maintain in the long run. If we do that, the last thing we want to do is to have a contractor mow down the side of Johnson Street and then turn in onto a ball field with nice athletic turf on it, because he's just going to drop Bahia grass and dandelions and every kind of seed that you don't want out there. You'll lose what you invested in your turf. So all that being said, I think at some point as we transition our turf, we probably need to think about at least how we have the resources in place, probably through Parks and Rec, to manage the turf on their ball fields. So you would eventually cut that expense out of your mowing contract, but I think you wouldn't save anything. You would just move that expense into operating expense. Well,
What are we gonna do?
I think you're right, and I think your ball fields stand a chance of making you that money again and again and again with good turf on them. I think you get one visitor one time sometimes when you got
Okay,
really bad turf.
what are we gonna do right now? We're gonna look at it, at first meeting, second meeting,
Second
what?
meeting in February.
Okay, we're gonna look at these figures, and y'all going to tell us, what we need to be doing this year.
We're gonna put it out for bid.
Put it out for bid.
That's what you want us to do.
I didn't think you could until next year. I thought they had
We can put it out
a
for
year.
You don't have to approve this, and
If-
we can put it out for bid.
Oh,
If we don't
Their
approve
contract
this, we can
ended
put it out for
December
bid.
31st.
Their contract's over,
Yeah.
okay,
and it's our option or his.
okay.
I've talked with him. He would like to renew it. Obviously, you guys would like to hear some more options before we make a decision.
Let's do that.
I make a motion, we table this until the last meeting in February, at which time you're gonna present me with more information.
Since you ain't got nothing to do, Tim, jump on that, buddy.
One more
I'll get
question, just to ease my mind, correct me if I'm wrong. The interchanges, that is DOT's responsibility that we have asked them to give us because they're the gateways to our town. They don't compensate us for taking care of their responsibility, correct?
They do not compensate us. We could get compensation. There's a little nuance to that. They will pay us back what they would spend mowing it if we ask for it. Here's the tricky part. The way they pay for their mowing is per lane mile. So, interchanges in a DOT mowing contract are essentially incidental. So we could ask them to pay us for it, and they would probably send us a check for about $38. So
That's fixing to be a cluster anyway.
that
Be no mowing out there.
that will be
Yeah.
sometime in the next 5 years. We're probably going to see at least 2 out of those 5 years that's our interchange on I-95 will
It was inaccessible anyway.
will probably be
Now,
demolished
I got
in
a question
construction.
about that. You renew, well, it's like we got to bid, do a new contract or whatever, say like it's 2 years and they start tearing up 95 and
We would back that.
back it out.
We would back that portion of the work out of the contract.
All right, we've got a motion on the floor. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no.
Thank you.
November financials.
Alrighty. At the end of November, we should be at 41%. At the closeout, we were at 42.36% in revenues and 49.49% in expenditures. I have a list of some of our high accounts on here, and if you have any questions, I'm open.
We're $607,000 in the hole.
Right now, we are. Yes,
And I
sir.
noticed that, water and sewer is where about 300 and some $1,000 of that is in the water and sewer. And another piece of it is in electrical.
You'll
Why is those two in the hole?
You typically see electric fluctuate in the months of November, December, January, February, in your colder months, and then you see it drop. So you started out, July was a little bit high, but then you had September, it's a little bit milder. So you'll see it fluctuate up and down. You're going into your cold season now. I mean, look at what it is today. So you'll start seeing those numbers go up, and then you'll see them drop again around May.
We really need to take a good look at some of these. It looked like probably the worst one of all is the general fund,
Well,
$384,000.
And general fund will always flip around
Because of taxes.
around February because of taxes, correct?
What's the board want to do?
I make a motion that we approve.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Consider approval of resolution 222, 2022 2022 fiscal year 2021 Community Development Block Grant Infrastructure Program.
This is another paper exercise from the CDBG project that we're working on. Not as long this time for me to read, but this is a resolution. Whereas the town is participating in the Community Development Block Grant Program under Title I of the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974, as amended administration by the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, Division of Water Infrastructure. And whereas the town deserves to amend the approved project activities and certifies that a public hearing in accordance with North Carolina CDBG program regulations was conducted on Tuesday, December 14th, 2021 at 7 to discuss the proposed amendment, and therefore be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners of the Town of Benson that the amendment to the FY 2021 CDBGI program is authorized.
Any questions of Kim? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion that we approve.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed,
Thank y'all.
nay. Consider approval of Resolution 223-2022 Town of Benson Safety and Health Policy and Manual. Fred Nelson.
Mayor, Commissioners, you have before you the, excuse me, the revised Safety and Health Policy and Manual. This document has had quite a few hands on it over the last couple of years. I was surprised today of how we got to the point where a safety and health manual needed to be developed, that being after a visit from OSHA that resulted in an adverse action. So in the meantime, the staff and myself have looked at this at various points over the last couple of years. From the 2019 copy that was shared with me, took a look at what the draft you have before you wound up being a revision that showed the town of Benson as opposed to another entity from where we got this wagon wheel, and did not reinvent it, if I can put it that way. And so hopefully you've had a chance to lay your hands on it or take a look at it on your computer, since it was sent out to you earlier. As I was talking with the mayor earlier today, I understand there may be some trepidation about one or more of the sections in this manual. As you can see, it's fairly thick, and so that's what you have before you as a draft.
Has anybody read this thing all the way through?
Make a motion that we table it so that we have a chance to read all that. Because we want to make sure nothing's in it that puts it in a pickle.
I started, but I didn't make it.
It is an arduous undertaking, that's for sure. While there's a pause, if I may, Commissioner, our main intent was to elevate this document as something that we definitely need to have in our arsenal to make sure that we have a good safety program for our employees and any of the citizens that come within our facilities, and it is our obligation to provide a safe environment for folks. So this is the spirit in which this is tendered to you this evening.
Ike, have you looked at this?
I've looked at it some.
Is there any gotchas in there?
There's a lot in here. I mean, gotchas,
Or in your experience, if you have any, are other municipalities' safety policies this in-depth? This seems very, very in-depth.
I don't know.
I didn't know you were here.
Yeah,
If
he's here.
I'm just asking you, because I mean, it was like, oh
You're
my
the only
God.
town I represent, so. Hold on.
2 weeks after I started to work here, OSHA came out to Parks and Recreation, did an inspection. Matt Smith led them through an 8-hour tour of that building out there. And you may remember in the summer of 19, that was in March of 19. Excuse my voice, I'm getting over a sinus infection. So, summer of 19, we entered into a settlement agreement with them. They found some violations like they always do. And part of that settlement agreement was that we would have a safety committee and policy. Okay? When they issued that, they said, we'd like for you to have that to us in 3 weeks. Send us a little postcard back that says you got it done. So we immediately started, I think OSHA had been out to Public Works back in 2018. So Tim and Danielle had done some work then. Tim had gotten a copy from DOT. The last part of that policy you'll see there is work that Tim did, using DOT as a template to kind of make it fit the town of Benson and what we do here. Well, as part of our settlement with OSHA, they required us to use their template for the safety committee, all that kind of stuff. So they had a template. The first 20 pages is where I took the OSHA template, right, and put that into place to make it suit the town of Benson. The work that Tim had done was already, it was good work. We're just not going to throw it out. It's standard operating procedures for different departments. So what you got is a combination that covers stuff that OSHA wants to see when they show up and knock on your door and say, show me your safety policies. So that was originally done in 2019. Okay? I presented Mr. Nelson with that policy in 2019. I think he signed off on it. The board never voted on it. As we got into the end of the year, we got a safety committee formed. We started the first of the year sitting down looking at the safety committee. Guess what happened in early 2020? COVID. All my time went to COVID. Well, not all my time, but a good quarter of my time and the assistant town manager's time went to dealing with this COVID issue that we've had for 2 years now. I think it was in October of 20. Mr. Nelson took over the safety aspect. I didn't have time. We were not meeting because we were not having employees meeting, together as COVID was raging through early 2020. I have not had anything to do with the safety issue since October of 2020. So I can't answer what has gone on since that point. I don't even know what you guys are presenting with, how that squares with what I presented to Mr. Nelson in September of 2019. But that is how that policy, the policy that I presented to Mr. Nelson, came into being. What you got is a combination of Tim's work to put standard operating procedures for our town in place in 2018 and what OSHA requires of us because of our experience rating with workers' comp to have in place. So if they come knocking again and we don't have a policy like that, it's not going to be a good day for us. So that is the history as I know it.
So how many times has the safety committee met?
I'll have to let Mr. Nelson.
We started meeting quarterly, and then in 2021, we've had 3 meetings,
Okay, so
3 opportunities to share our safety program.
my question
Slow
is-
walk.
is things like that, if, we could have, is there things like a safety committee that we'd have it, and they'd say, where's your safety committee? And say, well, we don't have a safety committee, or we never met, I'm not saying, that one seems to be taken care of, but is there other things in there like that where we're paying ourselves into a corner?
Yes, our safety committee or our safety program needs some ramping up, just to be totally honest with you all.
Who's on the safety committee?
We have, go ahead, Scott.
I put out an all-call. Who would like to be involved with the safety committee? We got 14 people who responded that they would be interested in. Mr. Nelson said put them all on the committee. So
Okay,
So we
so
started there.
those 14, you said y'all have met 3 times,
Yes.
the whole committee.
No, not all the committee, no. The whole committee has never met. And that's due to people being out, COVID, or other family activities, et cetera.
But you got a quorum.
and you got to understand that committee has got to be comprised of some management, some employees. It's very complicated, and it is almost. You well know that in other cities or towns, they have full-time risk and safety managers.
Can we change the words to make it not so complicated in the safety manual?
You'll have to
I
talk
guess
to
we
OSHA
can.
about that.
OSHA.
Yeah.
What happens tomorrow if Asha walks in here and decides to go to Parks and Rec again, or go to Water and Sewer, whatever, those departments, are we halfway covered?
About halfway, yes.
I don't feel comfortable answering that question.
What was if we put this in place tonight, are we covered? Or if we wait and keep waiting until we
No.
understand all of it?
No.
How big is that liability?
You guys shouldn't have to understand that policy, right? This should be a management issue of putting that policy in place and getting a safety program in place. It takes a lot of time and effort, time that I don't have.
This is a beginning, commissioners. And as I shared with the mayor earlier when he asked me the question, must this be approved tonight? My response to him was that it's not a deal breaker. We do need to have some action on our policy and procedures. This is what we have before us. I think I know that there was a good faith effort on the part of the committee, and certainly the things that were shared with you all by way of email this weekend past. Even my notes, I don't know if you had a chance to see those, but everyone that's been involved in it has gone through it, I think, with a fine-tooth comb, and I believe that you can feel comfortable that any changes that need to be made can be made according to the way any other policy and procedure would be amended, and that would be with the sheet in front to describe what all happened, when it happened, and who was involved, and it be signed off. I believe that's the way you handle that.
I've not seen that sheet that you're talking about.
No, it's not here. I'm talking about should there need to be any revisions.
Do I understand that this is a draft?
It is.
Well, then what does the draft mean?
It basically means that if there are any changes that need to be made, that we do that.
Thank you, that's what I thought. Are you ready? I make a motion. Have you got a motion on the floor?
I just want to know who,
Who?
Commissioner Rayner had a motion.
Oh, you got a motion?
I have a motion, we table until we get a chance to explore it a little further. Make sure there's no gotchas, but.
Fred, is this board who is supposed to look over this page by page and decide if there's anything, or is that 13, 14 people committee supposed to have looked over it and do it?
The work's been done, as far as I'm concerned. I sent out the manual, I believe, 10 days ago, if not 10, probably 8. And my hope was that there would be some energies in terms of taking a look at this manual. And even if it was only by a section, to determine if you're satisfied or comfortable with the document. In
Well,
the
I've looked
meantime,
over it,
yeah.
but I don't sit down and read 200 pages of nothing.
Understood.
And I can't comprehend that. It's just like the budget that we just approved. I can't approve that because I've asked her to sit down with me sometime at her convenience and explain what I'm looking at, because I don't understand it anymore like I did before. It's the same thing with this. I opened it up, I pulled it to the side, I pulled it out of the packet I had, and I've been reading it. But as far as every page and knowing what it means, I just want to know, let's get there. If it's the committee or if it's us, then
I don't feel like this is in my ballgame. I mean, I read it, I skimmed over every page of it. I don't say I read it word for word, but I skimmed it. It's in.
look, the fire department has SOGs that we have to go by, and we go through them once in a while, and they change. But it's not a book like I saw.
What I understand, though, you said was in 2019, this policy, not the draft, but the original one you sent, or the last one you sent, was put in place. So the policy is already in place.
It's
This
in
is
place.
just a proofread version where you corrected some
Exactly.
proofreading. Is that what I understand?
Exactly right.
So if Asha walks in the door tomorrow, we have a safety policy in place. It's just was put in place in 19.
Well, Mr. Nelson signed it in 2019, but it was never adopted.
It wasn't adopted by the
So
board
right
at that
now,
time.
we do not have a
We
safety
do not
policy
have
in
one.
place.
That has been adopted, that I'm aware of. Maybe
No, we
there
do
may
not.
have been one before I came in, but
I think your points are well made that we could take another 6 months and probably not understand it when we read it. So if they are supposed to do it and make sure it's right, I
And
can
then the
do that. I
committee
would
come
trouble
to
with
us
it.
if we need to make amendments in the
Yes,
future. I think
exactly.
I'm good with that.
I'm good
Yes.
with it.
I mean,
I would draw my motion.
and
Thank you. I'll put my motion back on the floor that we approve the draft.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. All
Thank you.
opposed, no.
thank you, Commissioners,
have it.
Mayor. And you can be rest assured that if that should we find that there's anything that does not work for the town of Benson, we'll be back to make that amendment.
Okay,
Thank you.
Mr. Town Manager.
I'll start by saying that Loretta Bird asked us to announce that the Chamber Banquet is scheduled for March 17th to kind of give the COVID situation a chance to level out some. Also, January 17th, all non-emergency town facilities will be closed for MLK Day. And then our Board of Commissioners retreat. Wanted to get a fix from the board as to when they thought we wanted to have it, and if there was anything in particular that you wanted to see other than what might have been done in previous years.
Do you know what's occurred with Black History Month?
Derek is here, and he can share with you. That was in your packet. He was asking about Black History Month preparations.
Okay, so right now, sorry, I'm also losing my voice too. Like Scott, I'm also getting over a sinus infection too. With that being said, we did have 5 nominations this year. The board will be meeting Thursday night to do the evaluation process where we use the weighted scale to determine this year's honoree. As of now, I have, I think I have hand-delivered 3 of those packets to board members that cannot make it. So I'm doing everything I can to get everybody's input. And I will follow back up with you. I was asked a question today, and I've not had a chance to email you on it, but we'll follow back up about, and it's dealing with COVID and how do we manage that. So that has surfaced again. So I'll be getting with you on that.
Thank you.
So you got it under control?
Yes, we got it under control.
Absolutely.
Anything else, Fred?
Yes, the board retreat, Mayor.
Okay.
Wanted to get the board's pleasure as to when they'd like to meet. I'm considering some dates for that.
February.
Well, let me ask you this. In February, let me just say this. On the 18th, the weekend of the 18th, I won't be able to attend because they're naming the courthouse in Brundage County in my daughter-in-law's honor, so I will be there that day. So the weekend of the 18th, I would, if we could work around that.
If we're thinking about the weekend of usually we would start on a Friday evening and then Saturday, part of Saturday at least.
I can do the 11th and the 12th.
I was getting ready to ask that, if that was a good weekend, doable for us to get it together, as well as for you all to attend.
That was in 12.
We can come up with we'll have to come up with a venue for that. Yeah.
I would ask just to piggyback off of Wiggles. I know every year I've been there, we've done a wish list, and this is where we see it, and this is what we need, and this is the amount of money we need. I would really like to take a lot more of that Saturday or Friday night with you, whichever it is, and really dive into our budget so that we can prepare for the next 12 months. And go over that budget, those budget reports we can, and be able to figure out how we're gonna pay for all this stuff.
I generally attend those free of charge, and it's usually pretty helpful. I'm not available the weekend of the 11th, 12th, 13th. That February, if we're talking about February. Just, I'm not necessary, the board
but we may have to push it out to March.
We typically do it the weekend of whatever weekend the 24th falls on, because it's my dad's birthday, and I'm usually at a board retreat for his birthday, so that would be the 25th, 26th.
I won't be here.
But Angie won't be here for that.
I won't be
that's
here
right.
for the 26th.
Looks like March.
I can't do the 11th and 12th.
You want to push it back that far?
I can't do the 4th and the 5th of March.
We skipped the 4th or 5th of
Hey,
February.
I don't think you have enough, and I'm not, you're making the agenda, I just don't think you have enough time to do it the first weekend in February.
My thought is that.
The other question is, and let me just throw this out here as an idea, and I'm just throwing this out here as an idea between, I reckon, between everybody. We've gone to 2 meetings a month now, and my hope was that we could do 1 meeting with public business to do what we did tonight, and then spend the next meeting with you and our staff to work on budget. Does that take the place of a 2-day board retreat if we start every second meeting in the month actually doing town budgetary stuff instead of doing public comments and doing planning devices? I think 1 month in planning is enough, and then maybe we spend the devotion of our next meeting every month into the budget and with our department directors.
Have we even begun budget planning? I mean, it's usually, in the past, it was already started. I don't know, but we used to meet twice a month, and now,
In the past,
I don't know where or when we're supposed to be doing these
I think it
things.
usually starts in March or April, doesn't it?
In the past 4 years, we went to
Starts
the
earlier
retreat in
than that.
February, and then we had the discussion, we gave the direction, then they went, created the budget, and they brought the budget back to us to approve in May, June timeframe.
We typically we typically have already started discussions.
On the budget.
Yeah, internally, we've typically already started. We have not.
We have not at this point, but we.
Well, that's what I said, I don't think, you're gonna get tied up in that second meeting doing other things other than the budget. I mean, I understand everybody's got stuff, and I do not want to, I hated the planning, the budget, or the planning board retreats. I hated them when they started, and I got a lot out of them. We decided to do a lot of things, and we found out during that time what was coming up and what we hadn't done anything about that we need to look at. I think the planning board retreat is very important for everybody to get on the same page instead of I'm hearing this and I'm hearing that and nobody knows. I mean, does the department heads right now know that we have gone to 2 meetings?
Why do they need to know?
Why should they need to know?
I mean,
Because they need to be a part of this. They need to be a part of what's going on in this town. We've got so much stuff coming up that this board has no idea really where we're going to spend money or how we're going to get it.
I emailed the department heads the day after that decision was made, and I let them know.
It was a question.
Yeah,
That's why they need to know. So if they have something, they can be here at a meeting.
I agree.
They're a big part of this town. It's just like right now, where are we at with our electrical department? I know where they're at, but where are we at with applications out there?
At this time, we have no applications, Commissioner. As I shared with the board by way of our contacts in the last couple of days, we have an ad that's being developed. The Electric Cities is going to be helping us with that process as well as helping us with the actual interview questions, and should we need their assistance with the interviews, they'll help us with that as well. Kim has kindly consented to talk with one of her friends in Selma to see if he, as a retiree, can help us out with some of that as well. And then hopefully we can have something going on by the end of the week in terms of any names of individuals that might be interested, but we're holding out hope against all hope at this time.
Great.
And
When
then
you talk with
also-
electorate cities, what kind of input did they give you about our situation?
As I met with the team about what the discussion was with Greg Welch at Electric Cities, it wasn't very promising at all.
Okay.
And so we'll find that we may have to do a national search. We may find that, we definitely will find that our salaries range will be super important to people that are looking at any ads that we might have. We certainly have to make sure that we have our Class B individual on call and compensated at a level that would be commensurate with the work that he'll be doing, which would certainly be an increase in pay. And we are going to need at some point to be talking about additional people for our electric department, which there is a desert of candidates at this particular time. And so we don't have anything really that's promising right now.
While we're talking about vacancies, I know a couple months ago we added 2 more positions to the police department and increased the salaries for that. Have we had any kind of positive feedback on that whatsoever?
The feedback I've gotten from the police department most recently is about our people who are exposed. We have, I believe, one person in the pipeline for
There he is.
BLET.
We have one police trainee that started BLET last week at Johnson Community College. We have a second applicant that is currently enrolled in BLET in another county. He submitted an application. He's expected to graduate in March. So we, for the most part, we filled 2 of them already.
And so that leaves us with how many if those 2 come on? So we still have 2 vacancies?
Yeah, the 2 that graduated.
Okay.
Greg, or one of them, our 4-year degree person that,
No, he took a job in Hardin County.
Did he?
5,000.
and I was hoping you were a little excited about that, and then I was just wondering. Yeah.
What did you decide on the
Yeah.
on the retreat?
Y'all pick a weekend. I'll do what I've got to do to get there. I mean, but I think we should meet soon. This is a new board together per se. I think we should meet sooner than later.
Fred?
February 25th seemed a better day for most, if not all.
February the what?
25th.
You won't have Angie. I mean, I'm just letting y'all know Angie won't be there. She'll be on vacation. 25th and 26th. She's off that whole week. I mean, we can still record it. She can do minutes, later, but she won't be there first thing.
Wait, we've already approved you, haven't we? Can we do that earlier? Okay.
This vacation was planned
Okay.
before we had 2 meetings.
You should have said something before we start talking. Okay. Let's see here.
I mean, you can have it without the clerk. I just want to give y'all that heads up.
So are we gonna cancel February, what did you say, the Thursday?
We have a meeting on the 24th.
Yeah, cause we have a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday meeting.
Huh?
No, why?
You going to second Tuesday, the fourth Thursday is gonna be on the 24th.
Oh,
So you can be meeting Thursday night here and in the retreat Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
No.
Or Friday and Saturday.
No, I don't.
We can,
Where are you getting your time? From the
Friday
gas
night and
company?
Saturday.
we can certainly
No.
move the
What's wrong with
second.
25, 26?
I was just saying, we're still gonna have the meeting on the
24th?
on the Thursday.
I wouldn't think so.
Yes,
If
because
we're gonna have
we
the
just
25th,
moved something to the 24th. We've got
Mowing contract.
we've got the mowing contract that we just moved to
Yeah.
the 24th, so we've got to meet the 24th.
Can we move it to the 25th? It's,
Typically on Friday nights.
Mike's got to be there.
Yeah,
And
we could do that before we go.
But
Typically
that
Friday
eats
nights is
into
closed session.
your retreat meeting with general business.
Yeah.
But you can.
Tim doesn't usually come on the Friday meetings. It's usually y'all and Fred be here for that. I mean, I can present it, but you might have questions I can't answer, so.
Now, what was wrong with the 18th and 19th?
I'm not gonna be here on the
Oh,
18th
that's
or the 19th.
You said 18th and 19th, or 11th and 12th. That was the one we were talking about. Who couldn't be here the 11th and 12th?
That was I.
Ike. You said no, you can't be here.
I can be there.
You can be there.
March 11th.
You can be there February 11th and 12th. Do we need you? I mean, we love you, but do we need you?
Legally speaking, of course not. You can have a meeting without your board.
How much you mean?
We can,
Vacation?
we can pick up a turn anyway.
Oh, hey, Black History Month's on the 27th of February.
I think 11 and 12.
That's a full week.
That would keep. If everybody's in town, that would keep me from taking a lot of vacation. If I can get vacation.
What does that look like for everybody? 11th and 12th?
It's all right with me.
Ike.
Ike. February the 11th and 12th.
Do we need a motion on that?
Not necessarily.
Okay, so we're going to have it 11th and 12th. Friday night and Saturday.
Gonna have to hustle.
Maybe we have some Cubans. Let's rest.
That's not a bad idea.
What's that gonna do to the people that have to, present? Kim?
I think
He's in charge of the board retreat, Mayor. I'm
they'll
sorry.
be-
I don't-
No, I'm
They'll be
saying,
ready.
I'm talking about the department heads.
They'll be ready.
That's gonna make a presentation.
They'll be ready.
Is
You
it
gonna
okay?
make all the
11th and 12th.
presentation?
I make a motion
I
that
said-
we do it on the 11th and 12th
Of February.
of February.
Got a motion on the floor.
The, last of Friday night and then it's Saturday. Is that right?
On the 11th and 12th?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
I'll get an agenda out to you soon so you can add or delete whatever you might like.
And you will advise us as far as times and
Yes,
where
sir.
we're having it. Right,
Yes.
okay.
Ike, you have anything?
I'll just say real briefly, everybody should be watching when the Supreme Court does a vaccine mandate decision. I've been working with Scott, we've got a proposed policy, but everything's really up in the air. I want the board to know that that may be something that is probably gonna come in the next short while, few days probably. And depending on what they do, there will be a likelihood that we'll have discussion on that at the next meeting, possibly a later meeting in substance, but I just want to put that on your radar. If you have questions about any of that, let me know. I can talk with anybody individually or come to the board and talk with it once it's the appropriate time. It's in the Supreme Court's hands right now. I don't think it's proper, well, not proper, it's not really the time to get into it in depth. But anybody has any questions, let me know.
I got a question, see if you can answer right now. All right, what the Supreme Court's in limbo right now, what has that got anything to do with that? Cause we don't meet that 100 employee
We're
threshold.
close. We flirt with the 100 employee line.
And we need to further the list.
So that's what I was gonna ask. Do we ever hit the 100 mark anyway? Cause it always seems like
I don't
we're
think we
always
do.
down.
Cause you got
We
some
never did it.
classifications that are getting like field workers. They work out in the field. They don't require, they're not
But that-
following.
But that doesn't factor into the total number. What they look at is, do you have 100 employees?
And that also, that number, I'm sorry, I can't see you, Dean, but that number also means they're outside 100%. They never walk in a building, and that's not the case for our people.
And even if you're looking at them, they're still counted in.
How many employees we got?
94.
94 is a.
So why are we worried about?
Because we could be over 100 in the
That's
next.
why I say, we don't ought to be worried about that right now.
We don't have
More
anything worried
important
that, we got that 94.
Well, what I understand from your HR director, if you had fully staffed this town, it would be over 100. So I
We're
think
not gonna be fully staffed like that, so it's
if-
effect.
You lose 4 and take 4, so it's gonna stay 94.
It's
As
been
long as you
94.
stay below 100, it's not a concern for us. right now, again, it's up in the air with the Supreme Court, so it's not time to start talking about it. I just want you to know it's on the radar, and if you aren't already, I would be looking at that. I would think sometime this week, they're gonna say, they're gonna make it.
Stay at 99.
Oh, if you hit 100, that's when I've come back and we're talking more. But that, again, that depends on what the Supreme Court's gonna do. Just put that in
I know.
your-
What do you have, William?
Hold on. I know we're not in conversation about it, but what if it does hit it at some point, then how
Then you
does?
gotta have it. And once you hit 100,
Yeah,
you
does it
keep
stay?
it. It has to stay. If you go back down, it doesn't matter. You
Okay.
gotta keep it.
We
That's
had
what I
gone
thought.
through, we had gone through and purged,
So if it hits it
some
sometimes.
Parks and Rec part-timers that Matt was not using very often. We purged them from the record. Right, it was a good opportunity for us to say, you know, if you're not using them, take them off the roll. Chief Percy, he went through and looked at some of his auxiliary officers. You know, we've had that discussion about how's that gonna look. This was the perfect opportunity to make some adjustments there. If we had not gone through and taken a closer look and done that, we'd be over 100 right now.
Are y'all considering the fire department in that?
Volunteers is
Don't-
not.
I was about to say, no, we're not.
Volunteers are not.
I'm totally comfortable telling y'all that volunteers and you, several members of this board and the mayor, even though you do receive pay and the volunteers receive per call pay, you are not employees. The other thing, again, I don't wanna get off too far on this, but the other thing to consider is what the North Carolina Department of Labor is gonna do with the ETS mandate from OSHA. Cause they are, I think they're waiting to see what the Supreme Court is gonna do as well. They have not said definitively whether or not they're gonna enforce it or they're gonna try to challenge it. So right now, the Supreme Court's considering the stay, but there's a lot to that. So that's the first thing we need to see what happens. Since we're close, if we were at 70, I would not worry, there would be no reason to worry. But if you're at 94, and then 97, and then back down to 95, and then you're 99.
But y'all,
But
y'all
the-
control the numbers to
but-
get to 99 to 100.
But the important thing that
Don't let
we've
it
got
get
to
to
understand
99.
is the consequences if that does come to play. $14,000, what, per incident or whatever? That's the reality of it.
Per day.
If you're gonna.
But actually, if you go over that 100 employee threshold,
That's
we're
gonna
not
happen.
gonna go over.
I think there's other concessions that you can make, and we've talked about it internally as far as the mandate is concerned, but until we hit that point, like, I don't wanna bring it out in the public, but I think there's ways that we can work
Yeah.
around it.
Certainly, we've discussed that, and that's the main thing I want the board to be aware of. If that comes to pass, we've worked on that.
Y'all got a plan.
We've got something of a plan that is coalesced. In the event Supreme Court upholds it, in the event DOL in this state enforces it, in the event we went over 100 employees, these all things have to trigger, so we're not talking about it right now, but.
Time out.
Happens, we got it.
Okay, William.
I just got two quick things. First thing, just to tell the staff, thank y'all very much for what you do. I am sure that all 94 of you are busting your tail to keep things together with everything going on. And it seems to be the over repetitive narrative in your reports that everybody's short-staffed. And so I just want you to know that I understand that everybody's short-staffed, and I hope that this board can figure out some kind of solution. I'm not gonna say we can give you a miracle, but I hope we can do some kind of solution to try to help you come up in next year's budget. Second thing, just to respond to Mr. Whitman, to your concern, if I remember correctly, is Greg still back there in the corner? I can't see around that wall. We amended that ordinance for noise a couple months, maybe 3 or 4 months ago, and I'm pretty sure that I asked you, did that give you the ability to control that? And so if that's still an issue, do we need to look at amending that again? Because the way I understood it, and I don't have it in front of me, my opinion for 1 out of 6 is if there is a noise ordinance for residential and you are a commercial structure that is surrounded by residential, you should have to comply to whatever that noise ordinance is. Is there a way that we can control that? Is there a way that we can amend that to give you more strength if that's what it needs, or is that something you're working on and it's taken care of?
I would probably have to defer to Ike since he crafted that ordinance, but I would think so, yeah.
Then won't there some language in there, or if you define it as a nuisance?
That you're talking about, I think, where the officer can make a judgment call.
Cause like when the board meeting was finished up one night, remember that night we walked down like, good lord,
What time does that ordinance take effect? Can we earlier, can we make it 10
It's
o'clock?
always in effect, but the thresholds go down, I have to pull it up to you, but later in the evening, right? So during the week, during the evening, the thresholds go down, and they go down even further late at night.
Right.
So you can be louder during the day.
I just feel like as a team, we've identified a problem. I thought we had a solution to the problem. It sounds like the problem has not been rectified. Is that where we stand?
Yeah, that's an accurate statement.
Then we need to figure out a way to rectify it. That's where, and that's where I'll leave that. I'm leaving that up to y'all.
Well, stop talking about this guy.
I'm done.
Thank you.
You good?
Well, I don't know when you even discuss anything that's out there. It's just like Brian comes up here and he starts talking about the ordinance, okay? In the manager's report, right here it is, how many complaints there's been on that, and the noise is still an issue on East Hill Street, North Johnson Street, at the church. Landlord has responded. We will follow up the next few days and determine whether the church will continue to worship at this site or work. Okay, this is in your report, but has it gone back to Brian or anybody else that's complained about it? Where are we on it?
Yeah. Brian read a piece of the letter that I had sent to him, indicating that at the time, that based on what our ordinance gave us in the way of a tool to deal with that we were unable at that time to take any further action as far as that's concerned. So some other things that come into play are, and I might as well just go ahead and say it, are we targeting certain areas in town? Are we targeting certain entities in town? And that would be a consideration for us as we would move forward with the possibility of changing that ordinance to lower that decibel level.
Is this not the same ordinance that I get a phone call every other week from Maitland and Dorman with pipes running by their front door? Is this the same ordinance that covers that area? Obviously, it's not effective in that area either. And so it needs to be effective across the town.
I'm looking at the ordinance, 96.04 is unreasonable sound application and loud noise from, at, or near residential property. So the ordinance does, although the decibel level might not be low enough to catch the issue with the one on Church Street, it does apply to air, what does it say? Residential properties, occupants, or any person that is adjacent to or in the vicinity of residential properties. So anybody making noise in the vicinity of a residential property. And then it has your thresholds with your decibel levels that we talked about when we passed that ordinance. All except for Chandler on board. The thing again you gotta get into with the decibel levels, if you're gonna take this back up, is we need to try to get that chart back up there and look at what decibel levels mean. You know, because you could say 60 or 80 or 20 or 100, it doesn't mean anything unless you compare it to a sound that gives you a frame of reference. And make a determination as to how quiet you want things to get, because we've looked at a lot of different municipalities and what they set their thresholds out. If you go too low, you're gonna start catching.
But at what point in time is this is just one issue that he puts on his report? At what point in time, I mean, it was being passed over, just like some of these other issues that he's put in his report. But if you don't, there's been so many complaints from what I understand, not just on this, but on everything that goes on at that church over there 5 days a week at 11, 12 o'clock at night. I think police reports, I think you've got probably 10 police reports on problems that they've had. I'm just asking, I don't go to that church, and I don't live beside it, so I don't know, but at what point is this brought back to the board to make a decision on? I've got, right here, Max had, he wants to know about the Mingo Interceptor project that's going on. We're looking at a project that's going to cost us $3 or $4 million, and what's it going to cost us and what we're going to get, at what point in time do we even sit down and discuss this? I mean, we're looking at, well, we don't need 2 meetings a month because it's going to take up my time. Well, if we went to 5 meetings a month and don't bring up what's being discussed, then we don't get anything done. I'm just asking, do we bring this stuff back up at the planning board meeting and say, well, the interceptor project, I've been over there and I've been looking at what they're doing. They're pouring concrete over there. I've looked at the plans across the road at 1 million square foot under one roof, and we don't know if it's for distribution or if it's for, we don't know if it's a distribution, and we don't know if it's a manufacturing. Well, you have to know the difference before you start putting sprinkler systems into place, because distribution works different than manufacturing. You have to touch on stuff. And what do? We wait until the time comes and then start discussing it and then postpone it to another meeting. I don't know when these things are supposed to come up. Does anybody? I mean, are you supposed to get back in touch with somebody on what you ask, how much is this going to cost us and how much is it going to bring us in on the very plastic project?
I got to my part. What I was going to say is, so I'll say mine now. I don't know. It might just be me. It might be where it's all laid out. But I'm sure that maybe other people don't know. What are we planning to do with the $23 million? What are we going to spend it on? What's the timeline? What's the plan? I think I've had people call me and say, we want to talk about how we're going to spend that money, and I would tell them it's already spent. We've already got it figured out. But we need to. I don't understand why that's not maybe not an exact to the penny plan, but this is the ballpark plan. I don't know when is that going to happen. I guess I'm asking, when are we going to do something instead of, it seems like we may be in a little bit of inertia, or maybe it's happening, I don't know.
Commissioner.
See, I'm the new boy on the block, and I still don't understand it. I've got a problem. I didn't like when they hired NextGrid to do what they were doing. I said, this is, you don't take the lowest bid. I didn't know that we had such big problems with NextGrid. They affected me last month, and I couldn't even get a reading on a water leak, a main water leak that I had down at the laundromat. All I wanted to do is go up to the town and say, show me this, because I pushed to get this thing through on our water meters, these smart meters. If you've got a leak all during the night and you're using 38,000 gallons of water like was underneath my house, why wasn't I notified instead of me finding it? And everything was corrected. Now, I fixed the leak down there, but come to find out that the grid was down and they had to go replace it. You've got a part-time person that's coming up that checks these things and fixes these things, a part-time. It's not the electrical department. It's a part-timer that knows these things, and when he decides not part-time, what backup have you got? We're going to be in the same situation as far as electrical. When, and I'm not bitching, complaining about anything, but when do we sit down and discuss? You've got a manager that sent us 3 pages of stuff that we need to look over. And I would say we don't need to just read it and go home and put it on the shelf and wait for somebody else to start bitching about it. When do we sit down and talk about this as a board and start getting something done? Do you do it in the board retreat meeting? Do you do it at this meeting? I just don't know. Does Fred, after Brian Whitman stood up and he said what he did, should Fred said, yeah, I've got it in my report right here. Have y'all read it? And here's what's happening over there. We've had, not only Brian, we've had 10 other complaints, or Brian is the only one that's complained about it, so it's Brian's problem. I mean, where do we get it from? I'm asking the question, not pointing fingers, but I know Maxine is just ready to go. But like I said,
When Maxine gets ready to go, I will go.
I'm the new one on the block, and I keep
Well, I'm just
asking this.
I thought that's why we were going to the second meeting, so we could do this. Is that not what I'm understanding?
Yeah, but we got this, and we didn't discuss any of it tonight. So you're saying we're going to do this at the second meeting?
Well, that's what I'm thinking.
I think we as a board need to set that expectation, because to date, in my 4 years on this board, I don't know that I've ever had that. And so I think, and I would like to have that, and I think you obviously, so again, the purpose in my mind, going to 2 meetings again was, one meeting to do the junk we just did for the public, that is important, and then the next meeting is ours, to go over this stuff and handle it. And we don't have planning people coming up here and do rezoning requests and all those stuff on the second meeting of the month. We come here and we handle business between us on the second meeting of the month, and we devote the first meeting of the month to handling the public issues.
Okay.
And hearing public issues, so that when Brian comes up here on the first meeting, and I appreciate you standing up there, if there's an issue, we'll figure it out. Then the next meeting, based on my comment, I expect there to be a response to that next meeting. That's my expectation, but again, I'm 1 out of 6, so that's where y'all have to help me set that expectation.
You finished, Will?
Yes, sir.
Miss Holly?
No, I don't have anything.
You didn't spill your order,
No, I don't have anything.
Cassandra? Dean?
Got one question on the power. How often in a week does it go off and come back on?
A lot.
Cause that's what I'm getting. And that, it flickers, it goes out, comes out back on, but the problem is that, and I talked to my parents and everything too, they're having to reset the refrigerator cause the alarm goes off, and their network stuff like that, but they say, and I asked my mom, I said, how often does this happen? They say, every week. Sometimes it's twice a week, every week you're in. So what's making the power flicker?
Well, he was doing that when Matt was here too, because we talked about it then.
I mean, sometimes it's squirrels in the line, they're chewing, they're blowing fuses.
Most interruptions is wildlife.
Yeah.
And it's sad, because if you're working from home, it's
Squirrel.
I can show you pictures.
Never do that, no.
I can show you
Mine don't.
pictures.
Well,
Mine's fed, it's fed underground, but once you get out of subdivision, it's fed from the air. But mine don't never do that.
I don't have the problem.
Look at most of our system though, it's in town and under a lot of tree canopy.
And it's
Well, that's gonna be the next question, how much tree trimming needs to be done? Cause that's what I told my parents, is what it sounds like, the wind blows, tree limbs get in.
And we do get some limb touches, and if you recall, we entered into, an agreement with a contract with Burford Tree.
Yeah.
Who's gonna be better suited and to do line trimming than what we've done in the past. I think it'll be a lot more efficient. They probably, under their own standards, will be much more aggressive. We may even have to watch closely that they don't get too aggressive, for this town's taste. But the intent is to open up more clearance around lines, to eliminate the limb touches, to reduce the opportunity for squirrels to move back and forth from
Right.
trees to lines.
And
We pick up a lot of fried squirrels, I'm telling you. A lot of times when your power goes out, there's a fried squirrel.
And what got the conversation started was an issue at a local restaurant here, and that's what I tell my parents about. And because the restaurant told me their power flickered, it took them about 30 minutes to get their system.
I thought you were fixing that local restaurant using fried squirrels.
I was gonna say we could eat it in our board retreat.
But I asked my parents, and they said, yes, once a week, every week, sometimes it's twice a week.
Are they, they're behind the road?
Yeah, they're right over here, Parish Drive,
Okay.
behind the road over there.
We can follow up with the I mean, I haven't.
Well,
heard
their
that,
refrigerator, I do know, if they lose power and even if it comes back on, it sounds an alarm off.
So
and
I
you got to
mean,
reset.
I'm on all the CAD calls for electric, and I mean, I don't see that many coming through unless it's a disconnect week, but,
yeah.
but I can follow up with the
Yeah, I mean, it might be just something that where it just blinks.
Doesn't really go off, you just
But it
get,
just blinks.
get a minor interruption.
Flickers or whatever I call it.
And that's tough because of the amount of electronics in people's homes today.
But Dean, the only thing I don't understand, I'm on the same thing at the laundromat, and if it flickers, then those boards, every computer board starts blinking, and I hadn't had it.
Well, see, they've had the same issue over there by the one that passed away. The power going flickering off.
You talking about the Jerry Lambert?
A lady that passed away.
Denise Medlin's grandmother, or grandmother. Where they said that her house was overloaded, but their power was flickering.
Well, you see, that's another thing right there on this smart grid that we're using.
Yeah.
There's still units hooked up that hadn't been unhooked yet,
Oh, yeah.
okay? And it cost one last week, week before, that I talked, he said I unhooked it because it knocked out my heating unit. And because the town or Johnny Bird or whoever hadn't been by to take it out yet. So have they got,
Yeah, they got switches.
have they got smart meter? Have they got,
Load management.
Yeah, they got load man.
have they? Well, see, they're taking them all off. It might be something that needs to be taken off.
William, you said you had something.
Yeah, I meant to ask a question. Is the chief of police still back there in the corner? Is our speed limit sign currently in use?
Yeah, I believe it's on the Dog Eye Road.
Yes,
It is.
Is our dog? I got a couple complaints earlier this week. Whenever you get the rotating schedule, I had a couple people calling me off of Hornet Street and said, off of West Hornet, said that the traffic in that area has picked up immensely and they've been flying up and down that road. So if we could rotate it whenever y'all get done catching all the people in Dog Eye, then bring them to Hornet.
We're also working on a grant proposal right now to the state to purchase the second one, so we'll hopefully have two.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, Chief.
Max?
I was just saying, since yours is underground, you should be worried about moles and groundhogs, right? See, maybe, who would answer this question? What are we doing about the, lowering the plan for the infrastructure spending? We got a plan and I just don't know it?
I was waiting for an opportunity to speak and let you know that Tim has already set up a meeting with engineers so we can try to get some timeframes on what goes and priorities. And he and the mayor have worked tirelessly over the last year and a half, if not more, to determine what this town needs in the way of infrastructure. As I find that there are certain economic development items that I cannot divulge, I will not be able to. That's just where I'm at with that. And so as we move forward with economic development, and we do closed sessions for that in particular, that's when you hear about how much is going to be spent on what, et cetera, and what the end product is going to look like. You should be hearing something during the board retreat. I haven't fleshed out what that is yet, but when I sit down with the team, we can certainly plan for that as well.
I think that's Tim's plan is what we have and what we need and what are we doing with what we have.
We're gonna make that plan public at some
So
point?
come to the retreat. Fred, do you have anything else?
I have a lot at my desk, but not right now.
Okay. Anybody else? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it.
Thursday night, not this Thursday night.
That's right,
We-
yes,
we got
ma'am.
the next.
Yeah, Thursday week.
Okay.